In the vast reaches of the galaxy, among stars that burned brighter than anyone's dreams, there was a planet called Ioria, a shining jewel of technology and beauty. Its people, the Nilirians, were known across the universe for their perfection. Tall, graceful beings with translucent skin that shimmered like glass and eyes that glowed softly, reflecting their advanced minds. But not her. Her name was Arixa. She was different. Her skin wasn't glassy and perfect. Instead, it bore silvery streaks that seemed to dull her glow, like cracks in porcelain. Her eyes weren't the same radiant gold as her kin, but an unnatural, mismatched color. One green, one blue. She was a mistake in the eyes of the Nilirians. A flaw. The first time they cast her out, she was just a child. Words like unwanted and imperfection followed her wherever she went, whispered behind her back or shouted to her face. She learned to live alone in the shadows of their golden cities. Never looked at, never loved. Then the humans came. Humans were strange creatures, short, messy, and loud, but curious and unafraid. They arrived on Ioria for trade, spreading through its glittering markets with enthusiasm. Arixa watched them from a distance, hiding her face under a hood. For the first time, she saw beings that laughed without restraint, beings who spoke to one another with warmth, beings who didn't seem perfect at all. And yet, they were happy. It was on a crowded market day that Arixa made a mistake. She had been scavenging food, her hands swift from years of practice, when someone grabbed her wrist. She froze, bracing for a beating or worse. But the voice wasn't harsh. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." Arixa looked up to see a human, a young man with dark, tousled hair and kind brown eyes. He wore a jacket that looked too big for him and had a bag slung lazily across his shoulder. "Let me go," she muttered, trying to pull her wrist free. "You don't need to steal," he said softly. "Are you hungry?" Arixa flinched. She had heard this before, mocking offers of help, always ending in ridicule. "Leave me alone." But he didn't. He let her go. Yes, but he watched her, studying her like no one else ever had. Not with disgust, but with curiosity. The next day, she saw him again. He was sitting near the edge of the market, eating something that smelled warm and rich. Arixa didn't know why she stopped, but she did. "Are you following me?" she snapped. He looked up and grinned. "Nope, I'm just sitting here." "You following me?" She scowled and turned to leave, but then he held out a small wrapped parcel. "Here, it's food. You look like you need it." She stared at it. "Is this a joke?" "No joke," he said sincerely. "My name's Finn, by the way." Arixa hesitated. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, and the food in his hand smelled too good to refuse. Slowly she took it. "I'm Arixa," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Nice to meet you, Arixa." No one had ever said her name like that, like it mattered. Days turned into weeks, and Finn kept showing up. Sometimes he brought food. Sometimes he brought strange human trinkets and showed her how they worked. Arixa found herself lingering near the market, waiting for him, though she'd never admit it. "Why are you here?" she asked one day as they sat near an abandoned building. Finn shrugged. "Humans are explorers. We go places, meet new people, people like me." Finn turned to look at her, his brown eyes serious. "Why not you?" Arixa looked away. "Because I'm broken. Unwanted. That's what they say." Finn frowned. "Who says?" "Everyone. Not me." She looked back at him, stunned. "You don't understand. My kind, we value perfection. I'm a defect. A flaw." Finn tilted his head, his eyes thoughtful. "Back on Earth, we have a word for things like you. Unique." She laughed bitterly. "Unique is just another word for wrong." "No," Finn said firmly. "It's another word for special." Finn's friendship was dangerous. The Nilirians noticed. They whispered that the human was befriending the flawed girl. Some were amused, others were disgusted. They told Finn to stay away, that Arixa wasn't worth his time. Finn didn't listen. One evening, as the two of them sat under the strange violet sky of Ioria, Arixa finally asked, "Why do you keep coming back?" Finn smiled faintly. "Because I want to. No one's ever wanted me before," she whispered, her mismatched eyes glistening. "Well, that's their loss," he said simply. "They're too blind to see how special you are." Arixa stared at him, something warm and unfamiliar swelling in her chest. "You're strange, human, and you're amazing, Arixa." It didn't take long for the Nilirians to act. They didn't want someone like Arixa mixing with the humans, and they didn't want the humans seeing their flaws. One day, Finn didn't show up. Arixa searched the market, panic clawing at her throat. Finally, she heard whispers. Humans had been warned, Finn among them. They were told to leave Ioria immediately, their visas revoked. "No," Arixa whispered, running through the shimmering streets. She found Finn near the docks where human ships waited to depart. He stood with a pack slung over his shoulder, arguing with a Nilirian guard. "Finn!" Arixa cried, pushing her way through the crowd. Finn turned, his face lighting up when he saw her. "Arixa!" The guard blocked her path. "You do not belong here." "She's my friend," Finn shouted. "She is a defect," the guard said coldly. "Let her go, human." Finn looked at her, his voice soft but firm. "Come with me." Arixa froze. "What?" "Come with me," he said again, holding out his hand. "You don't belong here. You don't belong with them. You're not unwanted, Arixa. Not to me." Tears welled in her eyes. She looked around, at the sneering faces of the Nilirians, at the people who had cast her out her entire life. For the first time, she realized she didn't want to belong to them. She wanted to belong with him. Arixa took his hand. The ship rose through Iloria's violet sky, leaving its golden cities behind. Finn sat beside her, staring out the window at the stars. "You okay?" he asked softly. Arixa looked at him, her mismatched eyes glowing faintly. For the first time, she didn't feel ashamed of them. "Yes," she said. "I'm okay." Finn grinned. "Good. Because we've got a whole universe to explore." Arixa smiled, the warmth she'd felt for so long finally spilling over. "Together?" "Together," Finn said. And so they went, an alien girl who had been unloved, and the human who had seen her for who she truly was. Because sometimes, all it takes to save someone is to tell them that they matter. And to mean it.